Well, it's the end of Opportunity Week down in Columbus, Ohio, and the Buckeyes are getting set for a weekend off. No competition in town. Kevin Woidke, Anthony Moeglin will bring you our final show of the week here on the Buckeye Breakdown Podcast.
We've got the whole crew together as we cover Ohio State with our instant analysis from Ohio State.
There's something that doesn't feel right.
Unbelievable effort from him today. Is E.J. Liddell going to crack the first team All Big Ten?
I think he can be the guy. I'm not trying to start a quarterback controversy.
He seems to have the durability. He certainly has the toughness. This is the question on a lot of people's minds here. Welcome to Buckeye Breakdown.
Well, welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Buckeye Breakdown Podcast. Excited to be with you here on a Thursday evening, a little appetizer before Thursday night football in the NFL tonight. And it's we're kicking off week 3 in college football. I guess could basically say week 4 in college football, week 2 in the NFL. And we're into it, man. It's starting to really roll. We're getting a lot of action here. And for Ohio State, the action ends today as the end of their improvement week will wrap up here probably momentarily down at the Woody as their final practice is going to wrap up here shortly. And then they'll have Friday and Saturday off. But we're not off here, Kevin. We're going to hang with you guys here for the next few minutes and then talk about our plans for the weekend here, which we're excited about. So, Kev, before we jump into everything, what are you most excited for here in week 3? We talked about week 2. We talked about a slate that might not be up to par, but what are you looking forward to here this upcoming week?
So, yeah, I mean, probably the big game on the schedule is Missouri-Boston College. I mean, two teams that if you would have told me 3 years ago were going to be big slate material, I would have laughed at you. But, you know, I mean, you got Luther Burden down in Missouri. It's going to be fun football to watch, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, even rewind 3 weeks and you'd say the only ranked matchup this week is not going to be Boston College versus Missouri. But an old friend of ours, Bill O'Brien, has got the Golden Eagles really flying over at Boston College. And it'll be fun if they can stay relevant. That's a fun program to have kind of back on the map. And for Missouri, they've been pretty good here these past couple of years. We remember them from last year's bowl game, obviously. But we don't need to go there because right now, the Ohio State Buckeyes are feeling pretty darn good. They survived 2 weeks, which survived isn't the right word, but with all the upsets of last weekend, got through 2 weeks in the MAC and really took care of business. And, even though they were playing Western Michigan last week, Kevin, I still think that victory and the way that they went about their business spoke volumes around the country. You know, that Western Michigan team gave Wisconsin everything that they wanted in week 1. And then they came out in the field against Ohio State and it wasn't a match right from the start. So, even though it is a lesser opponent, still doing your job to take care of business is something to kind of hang your hat on, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, it showed. I mean, just looking at the numbers, I mean, today's episode is going to be a little more defensive focused. They were locked in. I mean, they're based on the numbers. I mean, they're the number 2 defense in the country. I mean, and that's not unexpected with the firepower we have. I know that there's players that played against this defense all camp on the other side of the ball that are like, no surprise. I mean, it's probably nice to be able to go out there and watch them hit other people as hard as they were hitting them all camp.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And it really is, like you said, we're going to make this episode a little bit more defensive focused as Tuesday was more focused on the offense, what we think the offensive can improve upon. And as we were brainstorming and kind of talking through, hey, what are we going to talk about tonight? How's the defense going to improve? We both kind of looked at each other like the defense can't really improve. This group is super, super good. This is a very, very special group. And they got NFL talent, not even just NFL talent. They got top tier NFL talent. They got a bunch of number 1 or first round picks running around on that side of the football. And, one of the things that I think is something that carries teams, especially early on in the year, and we've touched on it a couple times, kind of leading up to this point, but sometimes the offense takes a little bit to get going. Like you got to get 11 guys on the same page. Everyone's kind of got to be operating pretty smoothly. And it doesn't matter if the opponent is Alabama or if the opponent is Akron, you still got to get up and execute. And it sometimes takes a little bit for the offense to do that. On the defensive side of the football, you can have stars at any position. Yes, they have to play as a team, and yes, they have to do the responsibility. But if you have stars that are making plays, which Ohio State does, that can mask a lot of things, especially early on in the year. And while the offense is sometimes trying to figure their way, the defense is always going to be that rock. And for Ohio State, not that the offense has had crazy struggles, but you go back to that first half against Akron, the offense was kind of clunky, but that defense has been locked down ever since then. And you touched on some numbers. We wanted to kind of get into that because this defense is off to a historic pace, even in a year where there's a couple of teams that are kind of running right along with them. But there's no reason that this Ohio State defense, when push comes to shove, or when the dust settles, I should say, isn't the best unit in the country.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, just purely based off numbers. I mean, that's the easiest way to get credibility is just talk about facts here. And I mean, they're giving up 138 yards per game, 100 of it in the air, and then 37.5 of it is 100.5, and then 37.5 of it is on the run. I mean, it's just showing that they're playing downhill. They're attacking the line of scrimmage. They're not letting these running backs they're going against gain any speed and gain any traction or get any space. And as the season progresses, when they're going up against top tier running backs, you got Donovan Edwards in the last game of the year, and then Oregon's got a ton of good running backs. I mean, Johnson usually has one big brawler that just runs down people's throats. I mean, that's going to take some time. It's improvement week for me too. I got to start learning more names in college. Yeah. But no, it's gonna be really, really fun to watch this team keep attacking the line of scrimmage and keep making plays.
That's it right there. I think for me, it's the line of scrimmage, right? Because the conversation the past couple of years when Ohio State has slipped up, and it's mostly just been against the team up north. They've gotten kind of beat up front and on the offensive line. Like they've been punched in the mouth a couple times. And, you look at this group and, I keep referencing it. I just had, when I talked to Jack Sawyer on Saturday night, he just had this look in his eye and this conviction with what he said of like, hey, this group's different. And we all came back with one mission in mind. And beating Akron and beating Western isn't the goal. It's to beat the top teams. It's to be in the playoff. It's to go deep in the playoff. And to do that, you got to be stout up front. That front seven, your 4 down linemen or 3 down linemen and whatever collection of linebackers there are, whether it is Caleb Downs walking down or whether it is, Cody Simon getting in and getting some tick. But, whoever that front seven is, they have to be physical. And that was one of the biggest things we saw on Saturday was this continued from the Akron game, but there's an uptick in the physicality of this defense, and they're not going to be pushed around. You can tell that that's been a coaching point and a teaching point up to this point, from throughout the offseason, throughout the start of this season, is be physical and out physical your opponent.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's what they've done, and almost to a fault. I mean, I'm still a little shocked that Igbenogany didn't get thrown out of the first game. Yeah. And what happened to Denzel last week, but you're willing to sacrifice those things early in the year to be like, okay, here's what we're going up against. Because, referees are a little bit more, and I say this from a little bit of experience, a little bit more tight at the beginning of the year as they are at the end of the year. They're a little bit more loose. They're a little bit more, everybody loosens up as the season goes on. And I think that, it's just nice to see that, they're attacking the ball. And that's just what it is. They're flying around. They're hitting people. I mean, I didn't know. I was watching the game without sound. I was at a bar watching the game, and I didn't know who they were calling the targeting on because Caleb hit him and then Denzel hit him. And I'm like, who's out? And it's just so much fun to watch as a football fan, obviously as a fan of the Buckeyes, just appreciate, people always say defense wins championships. And this is one of those defenses that's going to drive you through the playoff, hopefully.
Yeah. And one of the big things that stands out to me is they're playing with a level of confidence that is not, it's not rare or shocking to them. It's rare to have a group of guys who believe in themselves so much. And because it's founded in like facts, like this is a group that's been there, that's done it, and that's coming back for more. These are veteran guys, and you rarely get that, especially in today's day and age with, guys having the ability to go to the NFL early and really get their paycheck. This group was committed to coming back and did it for one another. And when you're playing with that confidence, you're playing with that experience, and then you're doing it for those around you, you're not doing it for yourself. it makes for a really, really strong group. So what we did on Tuesday was we identified a few areas for the Buckeye offense where they can improve. Being that
Absolutely.
this defense is so damn good, there's not many spaces to improve for them. So what we're going to do is identify a couple of our favorite areas. I'll get started. I'm kind of jumping this on you. We talked about it a little bit, so I'll give you a moment to think through yours. My favorite has been the middle of our secondary. Our safety group has been special, and it's led by Caleb Downs. It's shocking to say that. I shouldn't say led by it. I think has the potential to be the best guy in that group that is star-studded. But I just keep going back to week 1 when it was Caleb Downs, Jordan Hancock, and they were just kind of filtering through and playing a little linebacker, playing a little in the post, playing deep, playing a half, they were using it because they were showing that, hey, if you come out with 4 receivers, we can match you physically in the run game, but we can also cover everything else on the pass game. And again, a veteran group outside of Caleb, being that he is a sophomore, I think that that's a pretty special group and a group that I think is going to continue to get even better than where they're at right now.
Absolutely. And I mean, it shows. It just does. And my group that I like to highlight, being a guy from the trenches, is the defensive line. I mean, they're giving up 32 rushing yards a game, and a lot of it is the defensive line making the tackle right the line of scrimmage. I mean, just looking at those guys up front, I mean, I touched on it a little bit earlier. I mean, you got Ty Hamilton, you got Tyleek Williams, obviously. I mean, and then it just goes from there where, I mean, those two guys in the middle anchoring that line, taking up double teams, absorbing it, shedding them and still making plays, and then letting Cody Simon and Sonny Styles fill those gaps and make plays too. It's so nice to see because when you played, it was, double teaming Draymond Jones and Devon Hamilton and not moving them an inch, and then Tough Borland coming up and making a tackle, and you're like,
yeah, good luck with that.
What do you want to do? Like, if you come off that double team to take that linebacker, Devon or Draymond's going to stick one of their big arms out and just clothesline the hell out of you. There's nothing to do, and that's it's so much fun to watch from someone that doesn't have to deal with it anymore. Really appreciate it.
Very, very similar vibe that this group gives off. One guy I didn't mention, Lathan Ransom, obviously have a great start to his year. He's in that safety group. All right, we're going to go player in round 2 here. So the player that I've been most excited about and excited to continue to see his growth has been Sonny Styles. Feels like he's very much so in a position that fits him. He was kind of, last year they were moving him around because he does have the potential to be like this freaky safety type cat who can play in the post and still stuff in the run game. But this year he's just focused on being a linebacker. And that dude is a special cat. He's built different than everybody else. And he flies around. He's physical as heck. And it's just really nice to see him in a position that fits him a little bit more smooth than what he was trying to do last year, where he was kind of bouncing around and trying to find a spot. Seems like this year they got him in a spot that fits him, and he's playing the run, he's playing the pass, and he's doing it from inside the box. And he's a guy that's been a favorite of mine to this point, and excited to see how he continues to improve his game.
Absolutely, and my guy is going to be Cody Simon. Mm-hmm. He hasn't played a lot this year. He missed the first game, obviously, and I'm excited to watch him grow because that linebacking core is. It's got so much potential. I mean, Sonny Styles is finally playing the position he was supposed to be playing because they were able to fit him in. I mean, they didn't have to put him in at safety because you got Caleb, you got Latham, and I think it's just fun to watch them attack both in the pass game and in the run game. They're both athletic and they're not afraid of contact, which is what I love to see.
You said a word there that I want to touch on real quick. They're playing attacking football. They're not. Oftentimes you see defenses, and you can watch all around the country that they're playing this reactive style football where they're letting the offense dictate the pace, the tempo, the personnel. Ohio State's different. This group is as special as it gets. It's as talented as it gets, and they control the pace. They dictate, and they attack. And when you have a defense that can do that consistently, you get these results. All right, we'll get out of here on this one here. My favorite guy to this point, and I'll give you a chance to say that, has been Denzel Burke. Denzel Burke obviously misses most of the majority of the Western Michigan game because he gets the targeting call. But that part doesn't matter to me. It actually probably worked out better. Get some depth guys in there to kind of get a little get an in-game practice. But Denzel has become a favorite Buckeye of mine over the last 2 years of covering the team because he is that vocal leader in the secondary, and he's a guy who brings a certain attitude to this defense that they're not going to get pushed around. Obviously, you got leaders in the front, you got leaders up front, you got leaders in the linebacking core, but in my opinion, Denzel is the leader of the secondary, and just fun to see him grow and see him get so much better. And talking to him after the Akron game, like they won 52-6, and he was pissed off. He was like visibly pissed off, and he was like, "No, we didn't play good enough. They shouldn't have scored." All of these things, and you're like, "Yep, he's got his head on right for this year," and I'm excited to see how that continues to go for him.
Absolutely, and my guy's JTT. I mean, he hasn't. He just It's funny that he's somehow getting lost. I mean, he's got tied for the lead in sacks for this year.
We just went 16 minutes without bringing him up.
I know. I'm just excited to keep watching him grow. I mean, he's a leader. He's obviously got the potential to be a first-round pick. I'm just excited to keep watching him grow because they can't focus on just him. I think he's in a great year because they got to worry about it's going to be hard for them to double team and leave anyone on this defensive line, let alone a blitzing linebacker, one-on-one with an offensive lineman. It's going to be a lot of fun. They won't be able to chip him as much. I think you're going to see a big year. I'm just excited to keep watching him.
Yeah, he's special. And as this schedule starts to tick up, maybe not so much next week, but as it starts to tick up, you're going to start seeing these stars start to rear their faces a little bit. And you're like, oh, yeah, I remember him. And when he's against Penn State having a fumble recovery, a pick six, and 5 sacks, whatever the heck it was, that's when the stars show up, and we're excited to see it. So improvement week is going to be complete for the Buckeyes. Today was their last day of practice. So they're going to wrap up, and obviously it was physical. We talked about what it was going to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, just for those guys to keep their edge and keep that competitive flow going. So a physical week of practice is going to be done. The boys are going to be off on tomorrow and Saturday, get the weekend off before starting to get prepared for Marshall, the Thundering Herd coming to town. We will not be off on Saturday. Obviously, if you're a fan of the show, one of our favorite shows is doing a film breakdown of our Buckeyes. And if you tuned in last week, first of all, I haven't said sorry yet to this point, but I do apologize. I know we strung you out. A couple of your boys, Kevin, hopefully they're watching tonight. They were giving you some smack, and it was totally my fault. Whatever was going on with the internet forced us to have to jump ship on our show. So while it is probably a little untimely, we are going to run our film review back from the Western Michigan game to give you guys something to watch maybe on the side screen while you're watching game day, getting set up for a full slate of college football. So expect that coming your way on Saturday morning. And then we'll get into next week to start preparing for Marshall, who comes to town next Saturday. And I believe it's a noon kick. I think I saw that it's a noon kick, but we'll get that confirmed. We'll get that confirmed on Saturday for you. So before we get out of here, Kevin, any final thoughts before we head into the weekend?
No, I'm just excited to watch the rest of the country. I usually focus on one team. Now I might watch, who knows, Duke. I mean, I got everyone in mind. I don't know who I'm going to watch. I'm excited to just sit down and relax and not have just the hanging anxiety of the Buckeyes play today.
What are the Buckeyes going to do? Well, it'll certainly be fun. While the slate is a little bit down, just think back to the days in June and July where we didn't have football, and even go back into March where you didn't have football. You'd kill for a slate like this back in the time. So enjoy the weekend, enjoy the football, whatever you like to watch, whether it be college and an NFL. And again, we're going to be coming to you on Saturday morning with our film review show from last week. But as always, you can check out all of our written content over at the site, si.com/college/Ohio State. We're getting all of our interviews from press conferences and stuff loaded in to the YouTube site here. So if you want to come out and check those out, awesome. And then you'll get our shows with Kevin, myself, and Brennan, as he's got some good news to share. I'm not going to share it for him, but he's got good news to share when he is back on the show. But for today, we'll get out of here. For my partner, Kevin Woidke, I'm Anthony Moeglin. Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Buckeye Breakdown Podcast.